Today on Agile with Norm, we're going to be talking about tips for adopting Agile. Starting out with tip number 1, Agile expertise. Every team needs someone who knows Agile and really knows how to influence and has been there and done that. To implement Agile well, you're going to have to change some mindsets in a lot of cases, and it helps to have some expertise when doing that. So that was my first tip. Make sure you have an experienced, good Scrum Master or an Agile coach helping you along the way if you can. Tip number 2 is good training. So when you're starting out a team, you definitely want to do the following 3 things in your training, and that is get to know each other. You want to have the team feel like a team, like everyone belongs. You also want to get to know the product. Get to know some background on it. If people are new to the team and they've never worked on the product before, give them some background. Tell them what makes the product successful, what's unique about the product, what are the goals for the product, why should we even care about this product. We should definitely go over the product and have some good understanding of it. And then lastly, and this is where I like to spend a lot of my time in the training, the other 2 are much shorter things. They're much easier to get, getting to know each other, getting to know the product, but getting to know the Agile, just Agile in general, and then also getting to know the framework you're choosing, whether that be Kanban, Scrum, or something else. And I would spend a lot of time focused on, this is Agile. It's 4 values, 12 principles. This is a framework for Scrum. Make sure that everyone gets a good base and understanding. And I wouldn't spend too much time on doing this stuff. I would like to limit it to 3 days at max if possible, because the reality is this stuff is not difficult. It's not rocket science. And at the end of the day, you're going to learn more by doing than just getting lectured at when it comes to this stuff. And that's not to say you can't make training that's something beside a lecture, because you can. You can make really great, engaging Agile training. But at the end of the day, learning by doing is good. So I try to limit my training again to 3 days. But 3 to 5 seems reasonable. All right, number 3, values and principles over frameworks. So this is an important one for me. I always like to keep in mind that the 4 values and the 12 principles are more important than frameworks. That said, I don't ignore frameworks at all. Really, if I'm doing Scrum, whenever I start a new Scrum team, I start out with a good foundation of Scrum, which includes all of the events, all the roles, and I try to adhere to the foundation of the framework as much as possible. That said, I still like to have a higher focus on those values and principles, because they're frameworks for a reason. They're made to be tweaked some. I don't need to be the framework police and go, oh, you're not doing Scrum exactly right, so we can't do this, right? That doesn't make sense. So I like to have that focus on the values and principles. I also like to start with a good foundation with any framework that I choose. But again, values and principles are more important to me. Number 4, leadership engagement and support. This is a really critical one. Whenever I'm starting a new Agile team up, I like to meet with the leadership of that team and just have a conversation with them and ask them, why are we doing this Agile adoption? What are you looking to get out of it? What do you think the challenges will be? You can get a lot of really good insights from having that discussion with leadership. And also, they're often the ones, funding this. So it's a really good idea to make sure that you understand what they want to get out of this, and then use that going forward. Another good thing when discussing with leadership is getting their support, right? We want our leaders to be engaged in the process. If we're doing Scrum, we want them to, maybe attend our training to understand what Scrum is if they don't know. We want them attending review meetings, at least at a minimum. You want them joining those review meetings and actually giving feedback to the team. And also, you don't want things like a leader joining a stand-up meeting and being the only one talking and taking it over, right? That's not going to be beneficial for anyone. So you want to make sure that the leaders are going to be supportive and in the right ways. In addition to that initial support and engagement, you should probably be having, I like to do it when I'm working with a team, is have a check-in with that leader. Have a conversation with them weekly, right? If you're finding out that the team has a bunch of dependencies and you're the Scrum Master for that team, right? It falls on you to help reduce some of those impediments. And that means talking to the leadership and saying, hey, look, we're trying to do this, but we've got 5 different dependencies, and each one's slowing us down a week, right? So stuff like that's really important. Keeping the leaders engaged and supporting throughout the team's life is very important. Number 5, a fun environment. I can't stress this enough, and maybe fun's not the right word, but you want an environment that's going to make everybody feel like they're part of the team. This isn't just another, extra layer on top of the processes they already have. You want to make this feel like it's an environment where people can be open and honest, and you can actually make changes and make things better. And to me, part of that is having fun. I like to, have an icebreaker at the start of every retrospective on my Scrum teams. Just have it a fun, get to know others question. Because I feel like if a team, they can't bond, they don't feel like they're actually part of the team, they're not enjoying themselves and learning, then they're not going to be able to do Agile very well. If I don't feel like I'm part of the team, I'm probably not going to speak up as much as I could. So having that right environment is actually really important for a successful Agile team, and it's something to definitely have a focus on when starting the team, right? You want to make sure, the meetings, there's some lightheartedness to them. People are able to laugh and joke around, but also be productive and create some value. And lastly, but certainly not least, is being prepared for change resistance, right? Nobody likes change, and when it comes to Agile, you're often taking teams that, in a lot of people's eyes, they've been successful teams and they've created value, and now we're coming in and trying to change it all up. If somebody feels like that they've been a wildly successful team, and you come in here and saying, hey, we're going to try something new, you could see how that could be disheartening for that person, right? So you have to be able to deal with some change resistance. Now, and this can come in a lot of different forms, and a lot of this can be handled with just knowing the framework you're trying to do. So if you're using Scrum, you can get pushback about, oh, well, it's a lot of meetings. And the right answer there, or the typical response that I give that I feel like is the right answer for the scenarios I have to deal with, is that there are meetings, but they're really events, and there's an intent behind each one of those. And if we're doing that, then we should be able to cancel pretty much the rest of our meetings and just focus on these purposes in these events. And it should make, reduce the other meetings we have. People are attending these meetings with a good focus. We're getting it done. And it should save time in the long run. And another thing I like to say in that response too is, the events, you add them up together, typically they don't take 10% even of the time the team's working. So it's not like there's that many events. But you're going to get stuff like that, and you're going to need to be able to deal with it. So again, just knowing the frameworks is really helpful with change resistance. I've also found that, one of the most successful things is just asking somebody to try it, right? Hey, let's just give it a try, see how it goes. Because if you say it that way, they'll try it out, and hopefully it will be successful. And if it wasn't, then you need to take a look at it and see, hey, what went wrong here? How can we make it better? And that's important, right? Something might not work for the team, and we have to be okay with taking a look at it and figuring out how to make it better. So again, just saying, let's just try it out. That's a good answer. If there are individuals that are just really being disruptive to the whole entire group, sometimes I'll like to set up one-on-ones with them and go, hey, what's going on here? Obviously, there's something going on. Let's figure this out and figure out how we can work forward together. So that's another good option, right? You just want to have some planned ways to deal with change resistance. And if you don't, I recommend you could just Google them if there comes up a scenario that you're not familiar with. There's tons of them out there. So those are my top 6 tips for adopting Agile. Let me know in the comments if you have another tip or you think that one of mine wasn't the greatest tip. I'd appreciate any feedback. Like, subscribe, comment, and have a good one, everybody.